Hello everyone, Kieran here from Speaking Spurs, talking to you about all things Tottenham. Today I decided to do a video outside whilst I still got a bit of light before I go home, because I've got a busy evening ahead, and thought this was probably the best way I'm going to be undisturbed. You might hear some birds cheeping, some dogs barking, because I'm out in the public park outside of where I work. But what we're going to talk about is a bit about the 4-0 victory over Leeds, why we shouldn't get too carried away with it, but we should be quietly confident that things are on the way up, and we'll talk a little bit about where we are in the Premier League, what we've got to compete against at the moment based on the Premier League standings, and yeah, just a little bit about the players in general. Oh, there we go, a little dog walker in the background there. So let's jump into it. The game against Leeds, yes, away at Elland Road, 4-0 victory. Turned out to be Bielsa's last game in charge. Nail in the coffin for that. He's had some heavy results recently, and you know, I feel sorry for him in a way, because he's been a great manager to them. They had a good old push for a return to the Premier League. Following season, they managed to come up. They had a good first season in the Premier League. Been a bit unlucky this season with the injuries that they faced. I think that's held them back. But also, I just think they've been sussed out a little bit, because teams know that they're going to work really hard. It doesn't mean they're not dangerous, because we saw in the game against us as well. They still posed a threat. They hit the post twice. You know, so they're always able to create chances and have the potential to score goals. It's just the fact that they are way too open to attack, and when you're coming against teams that have lethal attacks or attacking players, which isn't always the case with us. We have players with the capabilities of doing that don't always pull it off, but this game we did. And in those scenarios, it's going to be a case of they're either going to have high scoring draws or they're going to lose games, and essentially that's what's lost Bielsa his job, because of the lack of a plan B and an ability to grind out a game rather than going completely gung-ho. So let's talk about us in the game. In terms of the way we played, it was definitely a reaction from the previous game. It just wasn't good enough. Obviously, we had the great victory against Manchester City, then up against Burnley. Difficult game, terrible weather, the typical game you expect up against Burnley in those conditions. Suited them down to a T. We conceded a goal from a set piece. On the whole, I thought we defended quite well in that game, so it wasn't really on the defenders. It was just, one lapse in concentration, and our lack of creativity in that game, I think, really held us back. Against Leeds, not the case. We're 3-0 up within the half hour, which is fantastic. But the reason why I'm not getting overly carried away with this performance is because it was Leeds we were up against, and they leave so much space. They put so much into pressing all over the pitch, running everywhere, high energy attacks. They all sprint back to defend, but the problem is they play so high, a bit like Man City did against us, in the terms that there was a massive gap between their defenders and the goalkeeper. And with our attacking threat, a player like Sonny, you give him 30 yards of space to run into, then, you're kind of asking for chances to be created against you, and that was the case. Obviously, they had, as I said, they hit the post a couple of times. It wasn't like they were completely out of the game, but they're their own worst enemy, in the sense that they just allow teams too many chances, because they don't know how to close the space between the defenders and the goalkeeper. They do all of their work in midfield, and that's where their defenders end up playing. You've essentially got an 8-man midfield, which is crazy. It offers the goalkeeper no support whatsoever if you're up against a team that can really break and hit you. So let's talk about the players, and then we'll speak about the goals in some sort of awe, because they were great, weren't they? So Lloris, I'm going to do the player ratings as well. So Lloris comes away with a 5. He made a brave save from a low cross on 37 minutes in. He didn't really have too much to do in this game, which is testament to our defence once again. But however, with 15 minutes to go, I know Sessegnon kind of didn't give him the best pass, but he tried to run onto the loose ball, kicked it straight into Dallas, and then did the craziest thing. chasing him back, knows he's not going to get there. Instead of sliding with his feet, he jumps out with his hands to try and take him down. And it was still a decent way out. You know, we still weren't anywhere near the 18-yard box, the edge of that. If he takes him down, that's a red card. Luckily, he didn't get there. Dallas escapes him. And we know the result wasn't a goal. And we will move on to that player that helped out in the short time. So yeah, he comes away with a 5. That crazy moment definitely knocked him down. Romero comes away with a 7. He did lose a Leeds player in the box for the early free kick, only for him to head wide. He improved after that, did pretty much what we needed him to do up against Leeds. Dyer, the same really, comes away with a 7. Made lots of ground and aerial interceptions, and you know, I think it's evident now there's not a single Spurs fan that can't deny our defence is much better with Eric Dyer in the squad. Yeah. Then Davies, the left-sided centre-back, he comes away with an 8. He worked hard down the left, and because Sessegnon had, well, it was just a different performance from him, but because he was attacking a lot more, this meant, you know, Davies had to do a bit more in the sense of covering, and he did. He covered Sess very well in the moments he had to. And then, speaking on that Hugo Lloris, absolute dreadful howler in the middle of the pitch, that man, Davies, comes running back and makes a crucial block. So that is what bumped him up to the 8. He would have been a 7 as well, but because of that effort and spirit to get back in the block when he could have just given up, that's what bumped him up there. Now let's talk about our wing backs. So Matt Doherty comes away with an 8, and Sessegnon also comes away with an 8. And for me, I know it was against Leeds and they leave loads of space, but I think both of them defended well. And these are the wing backs that we thought we were getting. Obviously for Doherty, we spoke about in the past, he's been really unlucky in the sense that he came into Spurs expecting to be a wing back, and it didn't happen. Apparently Spurs had brought him in to be a right back, a position that he hadn't played in 10 years. He'd only played there a couple of times for Ireland out of necessity. Completely different game for him, so obviously struggled. Then Nuno comes in and he's like, yes, I can play wing back, and Nuno decides not to play that system, which was a disappointment. You know, it's been a bit of a strange one for him, so he's been in and out of the side. He's struggled recently. Conte obviously plays that system, but he's gone with Emerson more often than not. However, Doherty's had a few chances. He played well against Leicester, and he played well again. You know, I was really impressed with him. Scored his first goal for Spurs, obviously, and it was a lovely finish. It was a great move, which we'll talk about after the player ratings. But the way he took it, first time, nice run into the in between the defenders in the box, slammed it home, nice and coolly, well deserved. And that's the guy we thought we were getting. That guy that arrives late in the box, almost as a auxiliary striker. That's what we got from him, and that's what we want in the future. But aside from that, he also got the assist for Kulusevski's goal, laid the ball to him, and then he almost set up Sessegnon with a low ball into the box. So he nearly returned the favour for Sess himself. But I thought he defended well, he attacked well. So from him, great performance. Then moving on to Sess, who I said also gets an 8. You know, again, the player that we thought we'd signed, and he was not outstanding and amazing, but he had that confidence to go forward. I felt like against Burnley he held back way too much. There were so many moments where he could have really attacked down there, and he was hesitant, he was passing backwards, playing the ball inside, but this was completely different, and I think it's because Leeds give you the space. So for him it was a really important game. He really targeted down that side. The ball that he played in for Doherty first time as well for that goal, I thought was excellent. So for him, yeah, he was involved in the build-up for the third goal as well. He also sent a half volley into the keeper. He did take a booking in the game, but obviously he's becoming more astute to his responsibilities after he takes a booking, and I thought he continued very well in this game. He did give away the sloppy pass that put Lloris in trouble, but he played a part in the recovery as well. He sprinted back, he got himself on the goal line, which actually made Dallas hesitate on what he was going to do, which ultimately gave Davies the time to get back into the box. So good all round for him. Yeah, moving into the midfield, 2 in there. Højbjerg comes away with an 8. Set up Kane with a lovely chip pass for the 3rd goal. He used the ball a lot better than he has been in recent weeks. Broke up play quite well and worked hard defensively as he usually does. Winks in the middle of the park also comes away with an 8. Perfect pass for Sessegnon in the build up to the opening goal. It was absolutely lovely, perfectly weighted, nicely hit. Everything about that pass I absolutely loved. You know, he was good in the game. He was solid throughout the game against a high energy Leeds, as you expect, but I thought he coped with it really well and he should be happy with his performance. Kulusevski comes away with an 8. Scored again. That's 2 goals in 3 starts for Kulusevski. He's looking really confident down that right hand side. So his goal, it was past the ball from Doherty, then he danced his way through some weak Leeds challenges, but nonetheless he still had the work to do to get into the box and around them, and then fired home low into the right hand corner. He was very busy. He looked to get into the box constantly, which is something I feel that when Lucas Moura's out there, he doesn't do enough. He spends too much time dilly-dallying with the ball out wide, trying to cut inside, and doesn't get into the box enough. Kulusevski wants to be in the box and become like a support striker once he's in there. He had 2 more low shots in the second half, and I think for a 21-year-old that's just come into the Premier League, he's looking a really good prospect. He's built for the Premier League. He's solid. And I think we've got a lot to look forward to in the future from Kulusevski. Now, Sonny on the other side also comes away with an 8. There's a lot of 8s in the markings today. A couple of chances in either half with some good runs, but typical of Sonny, after he's gone on a bit of a run, he does have a habit of hitting a weak and tame shot. Lots of running and dribbling throughout the game, causing Leeds all sorts of problems, pulling them all here, there and everywhere. Scored in the last 5 minutes with that exquisite ball from Kane that he then chested, which took it into the path of his run before powering it home. So a good performance from him. And then let's talk about Harry Kane, who was man in the match for me. He comes away with a 9, scored with a great volley, took it really well from that Højbjerg chipped ball over the top. His passing on the day was very exquisite, nice and expansive. He got people involved in the game, lots of through balls, set up a lovely chance for Emerson Royal, who, if was more a typical Brazilian or a very attack-minded player, would have put it away. And then finally got his assist for Sonny, and he looks really sharp. And that between Kane and Son obviously takes them now as the all-time top duo in the Premier League for assists and goal contributions for one another. They are now the deadliest duo the Premier League has ever seen. So congratulations to them. Now moving on to the substitutes, Steven Bergwijn comes away with 6. He brought energy to the attack, played a lovely chip into Sonny late on. Emerson Royal came on and was denied a big chance. He come away with a 6 from me, but you know, it is what he is. He's not a typical Brazilian. He's actually a better defender than he is going forward, so we'll excuse that. And then Dane Scarlett got a few moments on the pitch, which is nice because Conte was talking in his press conference for the build-up to the Middlesbrough game, saying that he doesn't give out chances to people that don't deserve it. So I feel that was quite nice. It wasn't just about giving him minutes. He's earned those minutes on the pitch. Not a lot, but yeah, he replaced Sonny and had some good footwork. So that was it. So where does that leave us in terms of the league? So that puts us... Oh, sirens. Ooh. Yeah, so in the Premier League, that leaves us in 7th spot. So we've now played 25 and have 42 points. So if we win our games in hand, that'll put us on to 48 points. So if we look at realistically where we can finish. So Chelsea currently occupy 3rd, 25 games played. They're currently on 50 points. So one would assume they're going to win at least 1 or 2 of those games, which means we can't sit in 3rd, even if Chelsea lose their next 2 games. But if they were to, that would take us 2 points off them. But I would expect they'd win at least 1, but if they win both, 56 points. So 3rd is kind of out of the reach for the next few games anyway. However, Manchester United occupy 4th. They've played 27 games, 2 games more than us, and they are on 47 points. So if we win our 2 games in hand, we can go 1 point above them, which would put us in 4th place. However, Arsenal have played 24 games. That's 1 less than us. They sit on 45 points above us in 6th. which means if they win all their games in hand, they can go on to 54 points. You know, I'd expect they're going to win a couple of the games. So I feel, for the moment, 5th is the best we're going to get in the coming games. But I'm not saying we're going to finish 5th come the end of the season. I still hold out hope that we will finish in the top 4, because I feel like Conte's made his point now to the board. I think the players understand more about where Conte's coming from. And he said the whole time they've been working hard. But I think the consistency will start to come, especially since some of those players like Matt Doherty, Sessegnon, look like they're turning a corner. Winks obviously put in a decent performance against Leeds. And look, even though it was Leeds and they're so open and teams in and around the top 6 tend to put a lot of goals past them, it will breed the confidence because they've had the space to go and do it. And they had to work hard because Leeds are a hard-working team. Players will be more confident coming out of this game and they feel like they can do it. And because of it, I feel like Conte will give a few of them more chances than he might have done before, because they've stepped up after we'd had a poor game against Burnley in an attacking sense. So, yeah, it'll breed confidence. But then if we look in 5th place in the table, you've got West Ham. And they are 27 games played, 45 points. So we can go above them, but like, one expects at some point West Ham are going to kind of tail off. They had a good victory over Wolves, who are obviously in and around the areas to still push for 4th. But, you know, it is what it is. It is very much there to play for. I feel like we can do it, even with this squad. I feel like once we get the remaining players back from injury, I think once we get Bentancur and Skip both back into the squad, I think we're in a really good position to push on, because that'll enable for rotation, give some of the guys key rests when they need them. So lots to look forward to in that sense. And the fact that we've now got wing-backs doing exactly what Antonio Conte wants. And he was speaking about that in his press conference as well, talking about that he's finally got wing-backs doing what he wants, where a wing-back attacks to play the ball for a wing-back to score. It was really good to see. He was very happy. And obviously this is with his second choice wing-backs as well, because Reguilon is back and fully recovered. He was on the bench and he could have brought him on for some game time, but actually brought Royale on instead. So we'll see what happens there, whether Sessegnon will retain his place. I think for the Borough game in the Cup, I think it would be sensible to allow Doherty and Sessegnon to play again, just for a consistency point of view, because that's what players need. It's game after game after game, and that's how you get the intensity and match sharpness. So hopefully they'll start again, but he may choose to go with Reguilon just to get him some minutes against slightly lesser competition. That's no disrespect to Middlesbrough at all. It's just, you know, at the moment, Premier League, it's getting a bit feisty in there. There's so many teams battling for the 4th spot. There's loads of teams trying to claw their way away from the relegation spots. So I think the Premier League is probably more intense towards the back end of this season as it's been in a long time, just because there's so many teams that have a lot to play for in the back end of this season now. Now, speaking of the game coming up against Borough, FA Cup, we've just seen an excellent final, Chelsea and Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. So it just goes to show that more and more teams are taking these cup competitions seriously now, because it is a springboard, whether people like to admit it or not. They were talking in the commentary about teams that have won the Carabao Cup in the last 6 years. I think they were saying, I think at least four times out of the 6, the people that have won it have gone on to win something else. So it is a springboard. It comes at a good time in the season to push teams on. Obviously, we reached the semi-final, and Conte was saying, you saw the game between Liverpool and Chelsea, the quality that was on display. So the fact that we reached the semi-final just goes to show you how well we have been doing. In terms of consistency, we've not been great, but there have been moments where I think we've been excellent. It's just about hitting that consistency now going forward. So, you know, I think it's going to be a good game. Middlesbrough are going to give it their everything, because why would you not? They've obviously knocked out Manchester United from this competition. So I'm excited that we are going to get a decent game out of it, and I don't think Conte will ring as many changes as you would think. It's an important competition. We do need something in the bag, and I feel like, you know, we say it every season, this could be our year. It could be our year. But once again, I'm going to say it could be our year. You know, there's still some very big teams in this competition, but, you know, I think we're going to turn a corner at the right time. I'm not going to say that Leeds is going to be the big springboard that that some are saying. I'm not going to get overly carried away, but I think it wasn't the game necessarily. I think it was the preparation and the comments that Conte made after the Burnley game that will probably spur the players on to prove themselves and push on for the rest of the season. That's what I'm really going to put it down to. I think the performance was just the icing on the cake. So, you know, excellent. We're all happy for a week. Let's hope that the players don't let us down with a weak performance against Middlesbrough and take them for granted. So, yeah. We will talk after that game, see how we get on. Let me know your score predictions below for that game. Excited to hear what you think. Predicted lineups as well, pop them below. We'll see what we get out of that. So thank you for sticking around today and joining me for this video outside. I have been Kieran from Speaking Spurs. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Put your thumbs up and comments below. Thank you so much for sticking around. Take care, and until after the Middlesbrough game, come on you Spurs.